favorite football players all time, CFL, NFL. His name is Chad Owens, and I actually just got finished watching Chad Owens do an Instagram live with his son, and they're both the two just some of the favorite people that I've ever met, that I know, down to earth people. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Chad and his Chad Owens and his family, his wife Rena and his 3 children, all very, very nice people, and were very nice to me as a child, when I was 11 years old and I was doing some stuff with the Toronto Argonauts at the practices, and through my relationship with General Manager Jim Barker, who taught me a lot, and about maturity and how business works and things like that. So thank you to him. But Chad Owens, I just can't say enough about this guy. He's an absolute character. He's one of the most personable and relatable guys. He's out in his community in Mississauga and the 905 and doing things there. And whether it's training athletes with Shea Pierre at Shea's at PEP, Pierre's Elite Performance, kudos to what you guys are doing there. Increasing the level of athletes, not only in Mississauga, but I know that they're whether it's individual athletes or team or teams that both of you are training. I've never really talked to Shea Pierre, but I have a lot of respect for what he's doing with his training facility and some of the explosiveness techniques that he uses, because I think that when you look at Chad Owens as a football player, so much of what he was able to do is based on his explosiveness. So if you're a young football player out there and you're looking to add one skill, in terms of the game of football, one attribute, explosiveness is among the number one in terms of if you're playing receiver, if you're playing DB, even if you're playing, if you're rushing on the end, if you're an interior lineman, it's your first few steps, it's your first move that's deciding how you're able to beat the person standing in front of you to get to the QB, to get a hand up. So explosiveness is such a key part about football, and shout out to what you guys are doing there. So it's awesome. I hope that, and I know that both of you don't only work with football players. There's a lot of training in terms of soccer players and hockey teams, and I know that I've just been seeing on some of your stories, Chad, that you train a young badminton player, and so the techniques that they're using are not just limited to football. Explosiveness is one of the key attributes, an extremely important technique to learn in any sport. So shout out to what you guys are doing. But back to you, Chad, and not only are you a great man in coaching your family, and coaching the kids in your family in terms of growing both their athletic ability and most importantly, their ability in everyday life, whether it's them going to school or improving their character. Both you and your wife do an outstanding job of that, and set a great example for families all over Canada and everywhere else. So shout out to both of you. I've had the opportunity of looking at how you're able to parent your kids and some of the techniques that you use. And I obviously coach, for those who don't know, I coach youth soccer at North Toronto Soccer Club, and I've had opportunities coaching other sports elsewhere, not just soccer, whether it's tennis or even football. So I've used some of the ways that you've helped grow your kids, and some of the techniques you use to keep them focused. I've used that and translated it into my techniques as a coach. So hopefully those techniques are appreciated by parents in the Toronto community, and I try to do my best as a coach, and I'm learning every day to get better. So shout out to what you've able to both of you have been able to teach me, and also not only both of you but the other Argos families that of players that I knew, and having the opportunity to sit and talk with them, whether it's going out to dinner or other events that the team hosted. I was able to learn a lot, not only about football, but in terms of one of my intentions as a child was to work for a football team since I was 7 years old, or to become a sports agent. So to understand what goes on in the life of a player, it's something that has taught me a tremendous amount. So not only to you, Chad, but to all those other players that did such a great job of raising their children and treating me with respect and teaching me some things. Thank you to all of you guys. But back to back to Chad as a football player. This is the reason why I'm talking about you today, how I met you and your family. We're looking at one of the most explosive players in the CFL in recent time, and that can be strongly attributed to what's known as the Chad Owens, the all-purpose yards record holder in the CFL, in CFL history for one regular season, as you said that, with 3,800 all-purpose yards, which came from whether it's running the football. You were extremely famous for some of your routes and your hands. The work that you put in on the football field, on the offense, and then your work on special teams. Just blowing by people. Catching the ball, split step, boom, he's gone, touchdown. Whether that mainly was on punt return, I believe earlier you were on kick return. I know Andre Dury was on kick return, one of your good buddies. So that record of all-purpose yards that was formerly held by current Toronto Argonauts GM Michael Pinball Clemons. So I know that there was a bond formed through you setting that record, and you being honored during the game. So outstanding accomplishment. It's not easy to do what you were doing. Now, here's the other thing. 2012 was the year that the Toronto Argonauts won the Grey Cup, 100th Grey Cup, and before that, during the regular season, you had 1,300 receiving yards. And, there's 18 games in a CFL season. You had 1,300 receiving yards. Many people would be like, oh, well, that's not even 100 yards a game. So, how's that impressive? How about the receiving core that was around you? The likes of Dontrell Inman, who has spent time with the Colts, has spent time with the Patriots, has spent time with the Chargers and the Bears over the past 4 or 5 years in the NFL. Longer than that now, would have been since 2013, so probably 6 or 7 years now. Time's flying, but you were phenomenal. Inman was phenomenal with Andrew Luck. I remember watching him run some great routes in the playoff game. I want to say 2 years ago in the divisional game against the Texans. So shout out to what you've been doing, Dontrell Inman. One of the best route runners that I've ever witnessed with my own eyes. Jason Barnes, Maurice Mann, two tremendous athletes, two tremendous people, tremendous football players. Won Grey Cups with Ricky Ray in Edmonton, and I don't know if both of them did, but I know Jason Barnes did. But both of you having played with Ricky Ray previously in Edmonton, winning a Grey Cup with Ricky Ray in Toronto. All those receivers that I've just mentioned, Andre Dury is one that I'm forgetting about. There's probably a few more that I'm forgetting about. One of the most stacked receiving cores that we've ever seen in the CFL. not just a stacked receiving core, but that 2012 Toronto Argonauts team, and I'll get a little bit more into this in another segment about how I think that might be the greatest team ever assembled in CFL history. We're talking about Ricky Ray, a top 5 QB of all time, as I just said in one of my last shows on the CFL. We're talking about Chad Cackard, who was honored in that Grey Cup as being one of the best players on that team, having a massive impact. So shout out to you. There's so many more players, whether it's Jeff Keeping or Chris Van Zyl in the offensive line that held it down. Whether it's two NFL level corners in Pacino Horn and Ahmad Carroll, who had been to NFL camps and played, and Ahmad Carroll, who played many seasons in the NFL. Tremendous football players. Jordan Younger, a tremendous tremendous linebacker, tremendous DB, just tremendous defensive football player. So shout out to you, now coaching in Winnipeg. One of the best football coaches that we have in Canada right now, in my opinion, and the work that you've done in the past with Coach Cannon, Anthony Cannon, and Maurice Mann as well, who's now back in California, who trains under his name, Get Better or Get Beat, the name of his company, to my understanding, and the work that you're doing with an NBA, NFL players and level athletes. So shout out to all those guys and the work that they've been doing. But a tremendous football team. I'll get into that in another show. But Chad Owens was again one of the key contributors, not only in terms of his play on the field, but one of the things that I attribute him with is just being a great teammate. And from what I know, we're talking about a guy that when I was, the year before the Grey Cup in 2011, when I was still helping out with the team, one of the warm-up drills that the receivers would do, and when everybody was within their individual groups, so whether it's receivers or quarterbacks or running backs, I spent most of my time with the receivers and receivers coach Cos DiMatteo and punter Noel Prefontaine. You're wondering, why am I saying kicker punter Noel Prefontaine? Because he was the quarterback in that warm-up, throwing kind of 5-yard in and out routes, warming guys up. Tremendous arm, tremendous kicker, tremendous punter. Shout out to you, Noel Prefontaine, a great father to your kids and your wife, and I believe you guys have 3 kids. So shout out to you and always being really nice to me. Again, one of the tremendous guys and leaders on that team, Noel Prefontaine, multiple-time Grey Cup winner. So it would be Cos who would be coaching the receivers. It would be Noel throwing the balls, and then the footballs being thrown back to me from the receivers, passing them back to Noel to throw. So I just wanted to say, that obviously thank you to Jim Barker for allowing me to be a part of such a great experience with such a great group of teammates. But Chad Owens, in that drill, I always remember him talking in line and keeping spirits light, but also working on little things throughout practices and trying to practice, perfection or as close to perfection with that receiving core. Tremendous group of receivers. All of you were very nice to me. I don't know if I mentioned Andre Dury earlier as a receiver. I know I mentioned him as some of the duties that he did as a kick returner, but very nice guy and a lot of respect to you. But Chad was always trying to work to make everybody else better around him. It wasn't always about, I need to keep my job and everybody else fight for yourself, because he was more concerned about making the receivers around him better than he was himself. And I don't say that as a knock to him. I say that as a compliment, in that he was just a great team player and wanting everybody that was around him, not even just receivers, but working with quarterbacks about, hey, I'm going to do this and put the ball here and put the ball there. And some of that work that he had done with past quarterbacks, whether it was Steven Giles or Dalton Bell in Toronto or Cleo Lemon, some of the work that he was able to put in with those quarterbacks. Obviously most famous for his work with Ricky Ray and some of the catches that he was able to make. It was through some of his communication with Ricky Ray, and Ricky Ray being one of the most accurate passers in CFL history, being able to say, hey Ricky, can you put the ball here? Can you put the ball, on this route? Can you put the ball closer to my chest area? If the DB's in this position. So Chad is always constantly working through those things. Different kinds of approach to the game of football in terms of his training, in terms of how he played the game. So just a tremendous football player, tremendous family man. I cannot say enough good about him. Just coming off of watching your live official reaction to Chad Jr.'s hair, thumbs down. I agree the buzz cut was a better look. But hey, we got to do what we got to do here. My hair's growing out too, and I don't have as big as a side topic. We're gonna get a little bit off track here, but I don't know how I feel about the long hair. I'm not too opposed to the long hair, but we need to get rid of that highlight. So just not to upset you, Junior. But just a shout out to you, Chad, that if something can be done about this, whether it's an unexpected buzz cut, you got to do what you got to do, and I can't stop laughing. But thank you for just for both of you guys, and Junior, your two sisters, and your mom, just for all being a great part of my memories as a child and growing up and treating me like family, and not only just treating me like family, but the Argos community as family. And I know not only are you a great football player, one of the last things I want to mention is a great fighter in your one MMA career fight in Hawaii. Mighty Mouse got it done with the ground and pound. Relentless welterweight. So I'd love to see maybe you and Max Holloway do some training one day. That'd be awesome. Two great Hawaiians. So just shout out to you and what you've done. Also feature one of your old shirts that you gave me. That's the CO2 logo right there. So we got the CO2 logo. We got the Mighty Mouse shirt, one of the coolest walkout shirts, and then on the logo here, hopefully you guys can see that, we got Exhale Inspiration, ChadOwens2.com. So make sure to check out his website, and heads up to what you did as a football player. Like I said, everything else, and hope to talk with you soon. Hopefully we can work together soon, and just a shout out to you. So thank you for everything, Chad.